see everyone here. Actually, on that note, you were one of my first instructors, Tony. It was you, Michael Warfield, and Ben, right? Yes, I started in Glaysville, stayed there for a couple of years, and then went off to the headquarters to train with Sifu Nima and everyone else. First of all, yeah, just want to, I know it's been said many times before me, the people have said that it's, you know, thank you to everyone that's come. It's such a great event. It's actually, personally, it's much better than, I wasn't being pessimistic before, but it was much better than I expected. Yesterday when I was doing cheese, I kept looking around, and then I saw a group with him, saw a group with the other Tony. There was a lot going on, and everyone was happy, and there was a lot of, I mean, just in this front row, just in this section here, there's 1,000 years of experience. Yeah. Not to say anyone's age, but you know, so there's a lot of experience in this room, and just everyone was coming together. So this is exactly what we were planning when we tried to set something together. And you know, the plan is that once a year, once in Hong Kong, once in Australia, we will celebrate Sigal's birthday and have a gathering, and hopefully it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. So and you know, special thanks to Tony for doing all the footwork and putting everything together. It wouldn't have happened without you. So thanks for that. Okay, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about the simplicity of practice. The simplicity, like what Tony said, Sigal would always say it's easy. He would say it's simple. It's simple. Wing Chun is very simple. Hogan-dan, very simple, but it's very difficult to do for you guys. For him it wasn't. So for you guys it's very difficult to do, but it's simple. So as we've all seen the video in his last DVD where he talks about he had 3 different teaching stages, and you know, he tried everything. And so why can't people do what I can do? Why? It's been, you know, I've been teaching for decades now. Why can't anyone get close to what I can do? This was his dilemma. And the last stage of his teaching, the last let's say decade, he started to, as it says in the video, I decided to, you know, try to pass on Nim Tao. Even if there's no students there, I'm going to just try to pass this on. So I was lucky enough to sort of land in Hong Kong around that time. But his teaching started to change, especially in the last 3 years, around 2011, 12, 13, when he was doing the senior classes. He started to, what he was doing about the spine and Nim Tao stuff, it started to evolve, which I'll go into a little bit. And I think if I talk about that, it might be a little bit interesting for people that, you know, even maybe some of the seniors, because it's just a message from what Sigal was teaching. In the beginning, like we can see from the people that had hands-on with him in the 80s, and you can see in the videos, up until I got there, there was a lot of talk about rotation, right? Like shoulder, elbow force, relaxation of the shoulder girdle, rotation. People that went there in the beginning, when I went there, you see the videos in 2005, and back in the day, you see videos of Graham and that there in 90s, and before that, he's constantly manipulating the shoulder and giving us a feeling, you know, even if we end up like this, he will manipulate the shoulder, give us a feeling that, okay, this is what it feels like to relax, and we turn from there, you know, so that's what it was about. So, and in the beginning, I was so stupid at the beginning, when he set me up, he'll go like that, and I couldn't understand any Cantonese, and there was no translation. I was like, it was just overwhelming to be there in this, you know, godlike presence. So he'll leave me like that. Oh, does he want me to stay here? I'll just stay here. So I will stay there for like an hour until my shoulder hurts. And I'm like, okay, what is it? So I just kept doing that for months. You know, just completely didn't get it. And then in 2007, late 2007, there was a night, and I'm there, the people that know that I'm there, you know, I was there when we were training downstairs. You'll open the door, and I'm behind the door going, hello, hello, the last one to leave. So I was always there, but for that night, it was my ex-girlfriend's birthday, I wasn't there. But what happened that night is he tried to, there was a discussion about the spine, because Sigal has always said be upright, and he always is upright, right? So, and I was speaking to Sifu Ma, and he was saying, back in the day, in the 80s, he used to say, imagine you're balancing something on top of your head. So when you move, you imagine you're balancing something. So he was trying to pass on that sense of rising up, but didn't quite know how to pass it on. So he just said, you know, balance something as you walk. So forcing us to stay upright rather than leaning. So he was always talking about back straight. Sifu Jim used to talk about keep your back straight, so did we, you know. So it was always talk of straight back, but not in that way. That night, what happened, he tried with a few people, some of the ladies and that, and they didn't respond. But he came to Seb, and he tried with Seb's spine, slowly, 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 rise, rise, rise. And he found out that through manipulation of the spine, once his spine expanded, he could tap into something, and as a result of that, things were relaxing. And even he was like, oh, wow, there was a big, so I wasn't there, and my phone started ringing, messaging, Seb's got it. What do you mean he's got it? He's like, oh, what Sigung's got? And how wrong we were, and even Sigung didn't know. People asked him, does anyone else, can anyone else? Like, nah, this is, and he didn't, like, his answers were very vague the next day when I was asking him. Eddie, the person that translated the book, actually brought him a bottle of champagne. We thought that he had it. As we went on, we realized, nah, he didn't have anything. It was just what had happened. It's Sigung had realized that, instead of manipulating here, if I start manipulating the spine, starting with here first, he didn't know about the tailbone, he hasn't figured out, or maybe we weren't relaxed enough about the tailbone, but he figured out that through this, I can activate something, tap into something. And the teaching started to take a turn towards the spine. Nim Tao. There was a lot of talk and people that came around. There was a big change. So speaking to Ma, or even people before Sigung's time, Lam Jiging, Choi Chi, these people before, Sifu's time. All of those people, they started coming back and just sitting down and listening, because he's teaching something different. It's a new thing, right? But I think around 2011, as I said, things started to change. That's when he started to use Qi to start to relax people. Later on, that evolved to using the looking. You guys have seen videos of the people that could receive it. Yeah, you experienced it, Tony. Yeah, not many people could do that, really. A handful of people could do that, where he would look into the eyes, and people could do it at different levels, but he would be able to transfer or activate your Nim Tao state by looking at you, by putting on his state. And it's a very, you witnessed it as well when you were in Hong Kong. It's a very strange feeling to be on the back end of, which I'll go into a little bit later. So yeah, things started to change. He started to say things like Wong Sisuk was saying. He started saying things like, and what the two Tonys were just pointing out, don't use your arm. Forget about your arms. There is no arms and legs when we do anything. So you'd be punching, and he's like, don't use your arms. Like what? So you don't use your arms. What do you mean? What do you mean don't use my arms? I'm punching, So he started saying these weird stuff. For us, we had no idea of what he's talking about, right? And he started saying one thing that was quite new. Of course, he always talked about, just like the straight back. Previous to that, throughout the decades, he always talked about straight lines. We know the first thing that we learned, if someone told you in terms of self-defense, what's Wing Chun, you say, center line is a straight line between you. So we all talk about straight lines, but he started to talk about the lines in a different way. He started to talk about the straight, he would go to his drawer and bring out his string. I think you were there, Bo, when he was doing that. And he was talking about, so like if doing a punch, you would think, am I going straight? Everyone would say, yeah, you're going straight forward. But I'm not. So he would take out a string. He's talking about going forward in a line as thin as a string or a needle, So if I'm going like this, actually that's not straight, that's going like that. So, and then he was saying how to, once you activate the Nim Tao state, so he started talking about the back part of the brain where the front lobe thinking shuts off. And there's a lot of studies about this, which I can go into. It's called the flow state. Scientists are coming up, the neurologists talking about when this part shuts down, this part activates, and this part uses 9 times less energy or something back here, and you can do miraculous stuff when you're. So that's what it's amazing that Siegel was talking about that back then. But he was saying once you're in this Nim Tao state, you start to then shape that or direct that in very, very precise, specific lines, to a point where I want to go, like if he wanted to touch that point, you can hang off his arm and he's still going to be touching that point, so it's like what Tony was saying, not that you're moving, thinking about, I'm going to go from here to there. He was already there, and his physical body just had to feel that line. So this is the power of shaping Nim Tao, these lines, straight lines, and of course, with circles as well, but he was mainly stuck on straight lines. So for me, one of the big turning points in my understanding was when one night, I don't know when about it was, but I've got this on video. Ada, for those who don't know who Ada is, she's very relaxed. From Siegung's mouth, her and Zheng, 2 ladies, before I talked 2 weeks before he passed away. He said they're the 2 most relaxed people in this lineage. Application-wise, didn't talk about, but in terms of what he considered relaxation using Nim Tao, they were the 2 most relaxed. So she's very relaxed. And she was doing I think a bongsa going up or coming down, one of these. And one of the other seniors, Awako, he was holding a fuksa, and he was trying to stop Ada from moving either up or down from bongsa. And Sigung, and by that time Ada could already rise up a little bit on her own, a little bit, with easy movement. So what he said is, just think about, follow my finger. Just think about a very straight line here, follow my finger. And she was doing it, and he's like, no, just think about it. And she couldn't really do it, sort of half-assed, sort of a little bit she could do it. And then, hey, dragon. Hey buddy. Yeah, so and then he started to, so and then Wasisuk said, but she must rotate to point this in a straight line, right? No, don't rotate. That's what got my attention, huh? Don't rotate. Ada's like, no, but it's yeah, you told us to drop the back, use the scapula, use the back. He's like, no. The reason I'm saying drop the back or rotate is because you guys are not good enough. You guys can't activate that state and simply move in a straight line, which is exactly what the two-tonians were just saying, right? So he said, you guys can't do that. That's why, basically, he had to dumb it down. Like, okay, what am I doing that they're not doing? Oh, I feel like they're pushing, I'm doing this. So he had to give the students something. Otherwise, he's standing there and he would just say, relax, 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 and it's very vague and people weren't training us. So he had to give people something, right? So that changed. So then we had a discussion, Sigel and I and Ada after that, and I was like, so what do you mean? You've been, what do you mean you don't rotate? You've been telling me to rotate and I've been trying for thousands of hours and you're saying now don't rotate. He said, no, when I set you up and I guide you to rotate, you are still using muscles. Less muscles, but you're still using muscles. Why? Because you're not using the Nim Tao. And he said, when I rotate, I can do whatever I want because I'm doing it from Nim Tao. So it's not, I can do whatever I want. I can even do it like this. And he would do it, right? And he said, because I'm using Nim Tao. So, and then he said, and then that's when he started to talk about the difference in, and I'll put up a video about the difference of his teaching, where he would manipulate and help you to move. And there was a lot of power, because he would locally relax that joint. There was a lot more powerful, but that was him doing it. Then he would go to the tailbone, help rise up the spine, and you feel the surge up the spine. This would activate. That was ourselves doing it. Then you're using the Nim Tao yourself. Or he would do the looking thing, and that was the ultimate. Because when that happened, you wouldn't even feel this step of rising up, relaxing activation. You would just feel like it's on. Exactly what the two presenters before me were saying. Which is very interesting. And so it means these two people have some idea of that. Must be, if they're talking about the same thing that what Siegel was saying. So for me, the last couple of years, it can boil it down to two main things that his teaching changed to. One being Seng, the idea of rising up in the spine. Okay, you can say, let's say, thought or energy or whatever, rising up in the spine, which I'll go into. The second thing was, once you're in that state, directing it in very predetermined, specific lines. Predetermined, specific lines. And so these two things, actually, these two lines, this and that, merge into one later, so it becomes one state, where you feel just that state, right? But I'll break it down just because one of them is activation, the second one is how to move, because a lot of people, for example, going back to, there's a girl called Jane, she's probably about, I'll be surprised if she's more than 40 kilos, right? And in my opinion, she's the best at standing. Well, she is the best at standing, not in my opinion. She's even better than Ada, because she can stand on one leg with like this and just stand like that for 10-15 minutes and very relaxed, like she's meditating, and she'll just hold her leg up. Or she can stand, and I'm sure some people have felt it, where she'll just stand like this, and Sigung will just, you'll push up on her arm, right? And big guy, you'll pull up on her arm, and the guy can lift 40 kilos, but you can't lift her because she's, this surging up here and flowing down. There's all this thing going on. But interestingly, if you get her to do a bong sao, you put fuk sao on top, there's no power coming out. She's relaxed, but what's happening there, or what's happening here, it doesn't come out into movement. That's why I thought I'll break it down to two things. One is their state, but then being able to move and not get disturbed by the movement for that state to come off. Okay, so it's simple, two things. Very simple, like Siegel said, very simple, but very difficult to do. And it's interesting that through these two things, from what he was saying and what we can experience a little bit, and what I do experience when he was putting me into the state, from these two things, things like joint expansion, rotation, anything, tailbone relaxing underneath, all of these things are an after effect. They're an aftermath of this state. So we're not, like, to work on a result of something, you have to do something to get something. To work on that one thing and try to reverse engineer, I think it will be very difficult to get that pinnacle, that one thought, because it's called Sifu Nim Tao, right? Sifu Nim Tao suggests that it's singular, it's a state, it's one state. When if you're telling me, okay, rotate, okay, shoulder's going to rotate this one here, then this one's going to rotate there. Make sure you point the knees, just keep tight, go on. So I've got like 10 things to think about, right? So then we wonder why our students or ourselves we stand like this and we go. So there's an unsettledness. You watch Sigung, he's very settled, he's very still, he's in one state, right? So it's still Nim Tao, not many Nim Tao. So that means we want to try and break it down to one thing, to one thought, right? And it matches. If you, this is again, going on the back end of what the two Tonys were saying, this is and it's you know, much respect to the ones that are saying stuff like that, and especially haven't had that much time with Qigong hands-on, you know, to find this path on your own, you know, much respect for that. Because when you think about the way Qigong got it himself, and I asked him many times, me and Aton discuss this all the time, how did Qigong get it himself? He was told by Ip Man, stand up, Tai Gong, stand straight, and don't use any muscular force. And there was talk of, he says in his interviews and stuff, talks about Lok Nim. He was asking Ip Man, what is this Lok Nim? How come it's talking about the mind, right? And Ip Man's like, just do it, just the power of the mind, just do it, and do it with the mind, don't use muscle. So then what he had is Tai Gong, uprightness. He had the shapes, the specific shapes, and the path that they were taking, because he watched Leung Sheng Lok Yu do it. Actually, Ip Man didn't even teach him the first forms. He watched them do it. Ip Man said, okay, let me teach you. He said, actually, I know it. He goes, let me see. Yep, keep doing that. That's it. That was the teaching. And do it upright. That was it. Very simple. And then, from what Qigong said himself, after a couple of years, he said he had this Nim. After a couple of years, I've been at it for more than, I've done the math, with Qigong alone, more than 10,000 hours trying to do this. And the guy gets it in a couple of years. And then he said from there, he started to evolve it. But he didn't know he had it. But my point is that he got it without thinking about, okay, rotate this. Without 10 things, thinking about 10 things, he made it simpler until it was nothing, right? What Tony was saying, until it was just a state. And I think that's important for us to understand, that he reverse engineered. He went back and goes, why these guys can't do it? Okay, let's try this. Let's try to rotate for, let's try that. But actually, I think it's beautiful that after 60 years of teaching, he did a full circle, came straight back down. His last bit of teaching, and when we release the videos, you'll see that's all he's saying. The last few years of his teaching came down to the way he got it himself. Very simple. Tai Gong, Sing, don't use any muscular force, and direct the movements with your mind, which is basically what Ip Man told him. So, the two things to talk about, Sing, one of them is the line. Actually, they're one thing, but the most important one, the more important one, is the Sing, because that's what activates the state. Without that, what are you going to be pointing anyway? You actually have to get that state and shape that. So, what is Sing? Sing is the motherboard, is the on switch, is what activates Nim Tao. This is going to be very interesting for you guys to hear, because I asked him once, Qigong, can you, because he's talking about spine, we can't do it. I said, Qigong, can you activate Nim Tao without Sing, without rising up the spine? He said, no. I said, not even, because you know it, it's in you. You can't just go directly to there without activating the spine. I'll call it activating, because I don't want to say straightening, because you could be like this, right? You could be in any shape. It's energy, literally energy, coming through the spine. And then through that activates the part of it. He said, look, I know, and this was still early on. We were still in Qigong's house when we were teaching that, so it must have been 2007 or something. He said, I know if I pick up this remote, I know it was in the house, because the TV was there. He said, if I click number 2, I know it's going to go to number 2. I don't know how this happens, but I know that this is how to put it on number 2. The same way, I know the way that I can do it is by getting this feeling to activate that part. So even his answer was, even for him to activate this in his Sing. So this is the motherboard. This is a very important thing. And then later on, when people were coming from overseas, some of the locals that wouldn't train that much, that couldn't really quite even get corrected to get that rising up feeling, you know, if we ask Qigong, why can't this guy rotate? Why can't he? And if you keep asking, keep digging, the answer would always be, not enough. He's not using Nim Tao, not enough Sing, not enough rising. So that became the most important thing in his teaching. So, what is Sing? Let's talk about it a little bit. I'll give you my sort of little spiel about what I feel, or what I felt when he would do the looking thing, and when he would put me in that state. I'll just give my little 2 cents about it. So Sing itself is the and there's so many things that go into it. Of course, relaxation, effortlessness. Of course, Tai Gong, all of these kind of things, balance. But you know, each subject is it takes a long time to discover each subject. But today I want to talk about the after effect of Sing and what happens.